And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Starting off today's marine segment with the sea ice analysis here, and central eastern Beaufort Sea coastline pretty well iced in now. Thinner ice here on the central and west side, giving way to open water there over the Chukchi Sea, but that whole area is starting to diminish as time goes on, and still a lot of open water through the Bering Strait there on down into the Bering Sea. And for tonight's forecast, we've got a couple of low centers here, one south of the Pribilof Islands, another one over the Alaska Peninsula. So rain and gusty winds here over the eastern Aleutians, and rain across the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island area. To the north, dry with high pressure centered over the north slope. A couple of weak troughs with some shower activity for the Panhandle. For tomorrow, this front pushes eastward here, bringing increasing chances of precipitation along the southeast coast there, linking up with the moisture left over that trough farther to the north. But all this light wind and rain coming in with that system there. Same thing for the North Gulf Coast. Not too much in the way of wind, and whatever precipitation falls will be on the light side here, even up in Prince William Sound, eastern Kenai Peninsula, and back into Bristol Bay. A little more steadier precipitation there. Pretty good north winds or northwest winds, west-northwest winds here, gusting possibly as high as 50, 55 miles an hour over the eastern Aleutians. Gales and rain come in with that front out to the west, pushing in toward Adak tomorrow afternoon. And for Saturday, that low center tracks up to the northeast over the western Bering Sea, pushing the front eastward here with gusty winds and rain for the Pribilofs down into the east central Aleutians. Warm front rains, light rain reaches the Alaska Peninsula, dry in the interior, and low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska keeps a chance of moisture for the eastern North Gulf Coast down into the central and northern Panhandle, but you can see not much gradient with this, so winds won't be much of a factor. And for the coastal water forecast tomorrow, south coast, east-southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, north coast, east at 20 knots. Lynn Canal, east wind at 10 knots, southeast 15 for Stevens Passage, and southeasterlies 25 knots for Clarence Strait. South at 15 for Clarence Strait on Saturday, south at 20 for Stevens Passage, with a southeast wind at 15 for Lynn Canal, and the south coast, south to southwest at 15 knots, and east-southeast at 15 for the north coast, with these seas running either side at 10 feet. And Prince William Sound for Friday, east at 15 knots. North Gulf Coast, not too bad, east-northeasterlies at 20 knots with 4 to 5 foot seas. East at 30 knots for the Barren Islands, and gale warnings for southern Cook Inlet and Kamishak Bay. For northeasterlies at 35 knots, 10 foot seas. Small craft advisories, northern Cook Inlet, north winds at 25 knots with 5 foot seas. And then for Saturday, northern Cook Inlet, northeast at 15, north 25 for the southern inlet. Kamishak Bay, northwest at 25, Barren Islands, north at 20, and north to northeast winds of 15 for the North Gulf Coast. Pretty light winds for Prince William Sound. Breezes out of the northeast at 10 knots, and those seas down to 2 feet. Kodiak Island, east-southeast wind 30 knots with 8 to 12 foot seas. And we've got gale warnings for the Alaska Peninsula. West-southwest winds 30 to 35 knots, seas up to 15 feet. East at 25 for Bristol Bay. West at 25 for Bristol Bay on Saturday with 5 foot seas, and the Alaska Peninsula west-southwest winds 20 to 25 knots, northwest 20 to 25 for Kodiak Island. And for the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, full gales, west-southwest winds 45 knots with seas running 17 to 19 feet, and good gales for Adak and Atka, west at 40, gale warnings for the western Aleutians. Winds southwest to southeast at 35 to 40 knots. And for Saturday, for the western Aleutians, west to southwest winds 25 to 40 knots, and south at 40 knots for Adak and Atka. And the eastern Aleutians, south winds or south-southeasterlies at 25 to 35 knots, and those seas up to 17 feet. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, south of Nunivak Island, northeast winds here, 25 knots. Same thing for the Pribilof Islands and St. Matthew Island, all looking at northeast at 20 and northeast or 25, northeast 20 here for the Yukon Delta coast, St. Lawrence Island and Norton Sound, with the seas 4 to 5 feet up in this area and 9 to 11 feet here out in the Bering Sea. And for Saturday, Norton Sound, northeast at 15. St. Lawrence Island, east winds at 15. East at 20 for the Yukon Delta coast. Northeast 15 for the Kuskokwim Delta coast. Pribilof Island, southeast winds at 30 with 13-foot seas. East at 40 for St. Matthew Island. And for the eastern Boulevard Sea coast up here tomorrow, look for west winds at 20 knots. Otherwise, winds will be northeast at 15 to 20 knots for the east central and central coast. East 25 knots for the western Arctic coast with the Chukchi Sea, quite a range there. East at 15, but increasing as you head north with 35-knot winds there in that zone from Point Lay to Point Hope. And then for Saturday, still looking at some gale force northeasterly winds here from Point Lay, possibly down to Cape Lisburne or Point Hope. Otherwise, lighter winds in the Chukchi Sea from the east-northeast at 15 to 20 knots. East at 25 for the western Arctic coast. And for the central and east side for Saturday, northeast at 20, except west 15 there due to that trough to the north for the Kaktovik Barter Island areas to Demarcation Point.